7 o'clock in the evening. I'm just getting home, and I am here at the pond. This is the same pond where I filmed turbidity and erosion at, and I told a few of you that, in confidence, that I was a little nervous about getting in this pond. There are leeches, which is pretty gnarly, and it's not super bright, so I don't know how much you're going to be able to see underwater, but it's relatively clear at the moment. And the neat thing about this GoPro is it can just shove you down in the water. You get to see all sorts of good stuff under there. Hope that any of that's coming through. But now, I suppose, it's the moment of truth. Here we go. Okay. Much deeper than expected. Alright. It's tough to tread water with one hand. Alright. So, I am in the leech pond. Here we are. Good thing there's no alligators in here. Whew. I actually do have a purpose for doing this. And this is a great opportunity to talk about urban wildland interface. Now, what urban wildlife interface is, wildland interface is, let's see if I can stretch this out underwater and get you sitting on the bottom. Talk to you. Alright, so, let's see if this is going to work out. No, that's super duper deep. That's not going to work out. Anyway, I found a piece of concrete to stand on. Anyway, urban wildland interface is where wildlands, lands that were completely wild, are invaded by mankind, okay? And this happens all the time. People want their little slice of the country, or maybe houses are cheaper, or that's where the work is, or urban centers, you know, inner city Houston, inner city Dallas, things become too dangerous, the crime is bad and the traffic's bad and things like that, and so people want to move further out. There's nothing particularly wrong with that per se, except that when mankind invades wildland with urban development, then there's a series of threats to that urban wildlife, or that wildland life, that wildlife, from the urban development. And it can take many, many forms. And so one of them that we see here, I'm in a body of water, obviously, and out there you can see that development, human development, is not far away. It's just right there, okay? And what that gets you is all sorts of runoff issues that were not there before, right? So in this water, there's going to be a certain amount of pesticides and pollution that come in from this urban area. And it's not just garbage. It's ant poison, it's roach poison, it's all sorts of pesticides, and it's oil that runs out of the bottom of cars, and coolant, and that sort of thing, various fluids from cars and construction sites, and glues, and all sorts of things that come from the construction of these homes, all sorts of runoff of concrete dust and various building materials that ends up in these ponds. And that starts to change the dynamic of a once wild ecosystem. And up in these neighborhoods, there's other issues, like people don't like their little cats and their, you know, inconsequential tiny little dogs being eaten by coyotes and bobcats and things, and so people start hiring trappers and hunters to have these animals destroyed or trapped and moved. And that changes everything. It completely changes the dynamic of the ecosystem. Not just directly threatening the animals, that's part of it, but also as you remove animals, of course that has a ripple effect, if you will. It makes a change, and that change goes on and affects other things. It's a domino effect, right? And there are other things too, even if people don't intentionally harm wildlife, which they do, but on all of these roads, then there are animals that are hit by cars. Every rabbit that gets hit by a car, well, that affects the coyote population. And in fact, just up there, I saw a baby deer right here around this pond, and a week or so ago. And as all these wildlands get converted into homes, then that animal's food sources, even if that animal's never hit by a car or never trapped, then its food source has now permanently changed. A lot of what we're seeing here is just good old-fashioned habitat loss, habitat destruction. The wildland was removed and destroyed and made into lawns and homes and parking lots and roads and things like that. So there's habitat loss, there's pesticide runoff, there's pollution, there's garbage, there's direct removal of animals, there's animals hit on roadways and things like that. And that starts to have this you know, like I say, domino effect, right? That's one of the things that I want you to learn in this class, is that everything is connected. Everything is in some way connected to the other parts of the ecosystem, because it is a system, and it's a closed system. There is nowhere else, right? The coyotes can't get together and say, you know what, let's move to Mars. This has gone too far. That doesn't happen. They've got to go somewhere, okay? And this is their home. This wildland is their home, and they are losing it to this urban wildland interface, this urban development. And that affects every hawk, every owl, every mouse, every insect, and everything else that's out here is affected in some way by this urban wildland development. So when you think about the growing human population, right, we're rapidly headed toward 8 billion of us, and all those humans have got to live somewhere, right? And so urban wildland development, this urban wildland problem, is an issue all over the globe. Everywhere there are people, everywhere there are growing and expanding cities, then this issue is a problem. And you know, we talk about feeding all those people. Urban wildland development isn't just the habitat destruction from homes. It also has to do with food production, right? All these people got to eat. So even more wildland has to be converted to farmland and things like that. And so it's a cascading effect of habitat loss. In a previous video, we talked about HIPCO, right? So habitat loss being the first one, invasive exotic species being the second one. And there's a lot of that here. There's feral cats that are killing birds every single day. There's rats that have come in, there's roaches that have come in, and all these other exotic species that were not here before. They were not part of this wild ecosystem until that came in. The other one, of course, we talked about the first P is pollution and pesticides, and that's here. I drove past garbage just getting here, like when I was driving my truck up. And I know for a fact there's pesticides. Every single one of these homes has a pesticide company that comes out and sprays for God knows what. And all of that runs downhill. It all gets in the water and runs here where I'm at. The second one is population dynamics, and the population dynamics involved here is the growing human population, right? There's more people moving here, and that population growth, that population dynamic affects this wildland. The climate change is not particularly that's not a localized issue, but the other one, the overuse, the overexploitation, that comes down to the animals from this habitat being directly removed because people don't like them, or they're scared of them, or whatever. And that has happened right here in this neighborhood. There were beavers here, and they hired people to trap and kill those. There are coyotes here. And of course there would be here. They were here long before people were here. And then people moved into their habitat. So you can't hardly fault them. And then they have their little tiny dogs, and they let their cats out and everything else. And so it's an easy food source for them. Their food source is dwindling because the wildland gets destroyed. The habitat gets destroyed. So of course they're going to eat people's pet cats, right? And then people get upset about it and have those animals killed. So most of the HIPCO issue is right here. And it's part of urban wildland development. And in this place where I'm at, this place is called the Urban Wildland Interface. And that's all the issues that you see here.